leadership, service, mentorship, friend, and of course, Mr. Rutgers. These are just a few words that come to mind when we think about Charles Chuck G. Resnick. Chuck was a graduate of Audubon High School, Bucknell University, and Rutgers School of Law, Camden. He was a sole practitioner in Camden County since his admission in 1977, appearing in courts throughout the state. Chuck was a former chancellor of the Rutgers Law School Alumni Association and was affectionately known as Mr. Rutgers because he never missed a meeting, never missed an event, and mentored students and young graduates for almost 5 decades. Chuck was also a member of the New Jersey Supreme Court Committee on Character. And as an active member and long-term chair of the Camden County Bar Association's Real Estate Committee, Chuck presented an annual seminar on real estate practice. To basketball fans, Chuck is also fondly remembered as commissioner for his annual March Madness pool.
I'm honored to call Chuck Resnick my friend. We met our first day in law school at Rutgers Camden, and back then he had hair and a beard, and I was with him when he took his last breath. Chuck was short in height, but he was a giant in stature. With his work ethic, professionalism, integrity, leadership, compassion for anyone in need, loyalty, and dedication to his family and friends. Chuck's Rutgers family always had a prominent role in his life. We both served as chancellors, and I believe Chuck also held every office in the Alumni Association. We worked together with Judge Rossetti in creating the Armitage Award in 1983, and Chuck and I were presenters for one another when we each received the Judge Nardi Distinguished Alumni Award. Throughout his career, Chuck mentored high school and law students and young attorneys. He funded numerous scholarships and programs. He attended every Rutgers Camden Law School function, board meetings, annual award dinners, student events, our class reunions, and he traveled to New Brunswick and Newark when any other Rutgers Camden law graduate was honored. Chuck was one of the first recipients of the Rutgers Camden Law School's Loyal Sons and Daughters pin. Rutgers and Charles G. Resnick, Esquire, are synonymous. His legacy will live on.
If I were to highlight only 2 of the qualities that made Chuck the person we all knew and respected, it would be his organization and leadership skills. To many, he was known as the Commissioner, or Mr. Rutgers. So powerful was his presence and dedication in those roles. Chuck was a dynamic leader, and that was true whether he held a position of leadership or was simply a member of a committee or board. Some people undertake leadership roles when their term is up and step away. Others enjoy being heard, but either are not able or not inclined to devote the time and energy required to lead from the top. Chuck, however, was someone who deftly managed to do both. We need only consider how vital Chuck's role was on the DAC to see this, whether it's his committee work or as the moderator we will sorely miss during tonight's award ceremony. It was a role that Chuck relished and deserved. We will miss you, Chuck, and are grateful you made time for us in your life.
I first met Chuck when I returned to the area and reconnected with the law school by getting involved in the Law Alumni Association. He was a leader who became my mentor and ultimately my very good friend. What I most admired about Chuck was his boundless energy and passion for supporting institutions and people that he cared about. There was no limit to what he would do, in my case, in support of the Rutgers Law School, its alumni, and its students. My favorite memory really took place over the last few years, which was having the honor of sitting with Chuck at the many tables that he sponsored at events celebrating Rutgers Law alumni and students. While it was always a pleasure to spend time with Chuck, I also got to know so many other alum and law students who have now become part of my circle of friends. I learned from Chuck that there is no limit to what you can do to give back to institutions and people that you care about.
I first met Chuck in 2011 when I attended my first Rutgers Alumni Board meeting, and he took me under his wing as my mentor, and he continued to be my mentor for the rest of our time together. My favorite Chuck memory was when a group of us presented him with a Rutgers Alumni House brick at last year's Distinguished Alumni Awards Banquet, and he was so excited to receive it. He felt like it was his Lifetime Achievement Award from Rutgers Law, and he was just overjoyed, especially since it was also his birthday. So it really felt like that awards experience was just for him.
I first met Chuck in the late 2010s. I was starting to get involved in the Alumni Association, and whenever there was an event, and the chancellor would reach out saying Chuck had bought a silver diamond high-level sponsorship and was inviting students and alums to sit at his table, I was always up. I mean, I was a young lawyer. I was up for any event that I could attend at a significant discount, and we got to know each other there. In the 2023, he invited me to attend the South Africa trip after a period of becoming acquainted, under the condition that I would attend as his roommate. And I happily obliged because, I mean, come on, it was a trip to South Africa. It was an amazing 2 weeks, and from that experience, he not only became a friend, he became my mentor, he became a confidant whenever I needed to reach out about a professional or personal injustice of any kind. He was always there to answer the call and give me guidance and support.
It is such a privilege and an honor to talk to you all about my good friend Chuck Resnick. Chuck was a huge supporter of the minority student program and for so many of the student affinity groups at Rutgers Law School. Chuck was there at every gala and every event that he could be at to show up for our students and for the minority student program. Chuck, for over the last decade, was a supporter for those student groups, and they all know Chuck, which speaks volumes about who Chuck was as a person. He really wanted to support those who came from disadvantaged backgrounds, and he did so by not only showing up, but by also sponsoring those events. Since the minority student program has been there at Camden, Chuck has been one of its biggest supporters. He has been a cheerleader for me, oftentimes encouraging me when things felt difficult or challenging for me to keep going. He oftentimes served as a mentor for MSP students, for students from our other affinity student organizations like BALSA, Alianza, APULSA, our South Asian Law Students Association, and so many others. Chuck was just a champion for humanity. He led by example. Chuck would oftentimes be there for advice, for encouragement, for a great joke when you needed it. Chuck, Rutgers Law School will not be the same without you.
I'm Joanna Bond, Dean of Rutgers Law School. When I started at Rutgers 2 years ago, Chuck was one of the first alums that I met. He was warm and welcoming and offered to introduce me to all things Rutgers. And he delivered on that promise and so much more. I am, like many of you, extremely lucky to have known Chuck. He was magnetic and truly cared about people, our alumni, faculty, staff, and most importantly, our students. Chuck was unbelievably generous when it came to our students, and he supported them financially, emotionally, and academically. To say that he will be missed by all of us is a tremendous understatement. I join our Rutgers Law School community in remembering Chuck and honoring his legacy.
What struck me most about Chuck, perhaps most about Chuck, was not just that he gave back, but he gave back to everyone who looked like him or didn't, everyone who shared a culture or history or tradition with him or who didn't. It didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter what you stood for, so long as you stood like he did for community service and character. He was willing to help you. He encouraged and mentored so many of us. He will be greatly missed. He is already greatly missed. And we are proud, as his Rutgers family, to carry his legacy and his tradition for generations to come.
In Chuck's honor and memory, the Rutgers Law School Camden Alumni Association will establish the Charles G. Resnick Scholarship and Student Support Fund. With this fund, we will choose a top winner for our annual law student scholarships for the student who best exemplifies Chuck's legacy of character and service to the law school and legal community. The fund will also be used to ensure Alumni Association support for flagship law student events supported by Chuck over his many years of service.